Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. Here we have Lucas on Blue White Delver versus Lucas on Storm. Storm's leading out with a Ponder off a basic island. Blue White Delver with a basic island and pass. Looking to keep up Spell Pierce, Daze, Force of Will, as many counters as possible, as Storm can kill you at any time, including turn 1. However, this may be a little bit more of a cautious draw. Let's see. No, I mean, this looks like it could be very explosive. He may actually have a turn 2 win here if uncontested. It'll be a question of if he decides to go for it. But it looks like he's actually got Dark Rituals, Cabal Rituals, Infernal Tutor. Looks like he's got everything he needs. Blue to Delta going to grab an Underground Sea. And gonna Ponder again. At this point, gonna be looking for a Duress or Thoughtseize. Oh, Veil of Summer in the main, perhaps? If this is actually game 1, we'll find out. I believe it is. Occasionally we get to a match a little late. That is possible with Storm. And gonna keep a Brainstorm off of that Ponder. Lucas, for his part, is gonna Brainstorm. And crack a Vista. Getting a Delver of Secrets down, but he is tapped out. And this probably going to be a wrap now. Brainstorm for Lucas. Oh, this looks very lethal from here. Lucas is going to need multiple counters. Probably go with an LED next. I don't love that. We'll see how this plays out. I probably would have played LED hoping to draw a counter. And Lucas actually just continuing to dig. It seems like he's got everything he needs. That's a misreading his hand. Was a Past in Flames in there, which he opted to pass on. Now, Blue White Delver doesn't have the ability to interact with Storm's hand, so each additional turn really only means more potential counter spells. So it's definitely much easier to sculpt against the deck that doesn't actually have discard. Wasteland taking out that Underground Sea. And he's going to fetch. We'll see if he rituals before this Thoughtseize. That is a way to get plenty of extra mana, potentially. Spell Pierce. This feels like a pretty good place for a Veil of Summer. Not perfect. It does get dazed. So a couple of counters stripped out of Delver's hand. The daze does feel pretty bad. And now Stoneforge. Sense of Urgency picking up. Sword of Fire and Ice. Maybe a little too slow here. He has Lion's Eye Diamond, Cabal Ritual. I mean, he does have the ability to win from here. It's a question of whether or not he believes Lucas can stop him. And he's going to go for another Cabal Ritual. 5 black mana is an awful lot. This time, however, Delver is tapped out. It'll need to be Force of Will. And no, it looks like it's actually gonna resolve. Or not. We've got Force of Negation, this time exiling the therapy. Delver swings. Preordained sees Dark Ritual. That's got to be welcome. I thought that was a Thoughtseize at the front of the hand. It must be something else. And now a Duress. And Lucas has an option here. He can put in the sword in response. You could potentially brainstorm it to the top. There's a lot of things that might happen here, but Duress resolving without any response, a pretty unlikely situation. Unless Lucas thinks that the sword is actually the worst card in his hand, in which case he might hope for Storm to take it. Though if it's almost impossible for it to be the worst card in his hand. Next turn it can start drawing him extra cards. It'll also wrap the game up in 2 turns. He's going to let it happen. So Brainstorm or Sword. Not going to be able to take Snapcaster here. Snapcaster with Flusterstorm is incredibly potent, as when a Storm player is looking to combo off, you can actually just play the Snapcaster in response to a Thoughtseize and have a Flusterstorm in the graveyard ready to be flashed back whenever they finally go to kill you. Of course, Veil of Summer has changed that equation a little bit, but still in principle, the idea that Snapcaster can put a counter online during a critical turn still very relevant in this matchup, regardless of any of these powerful printings. Snapcaster during the end step, grabbing a Brainstorm, trying to set the clock. It's going to be a 2-turn clock here for Storm. Going to be looking at 6 damage. Swinging all out, Delver, Stoneforge, and Snapcaster. 1, 2, and 3 toughness. A little menagerie of creatures. And it's now or never, no time for bluffs. Stoneforge grabbing a Batter Skull. Not hugely relevant, as Lucas is going to be dead on board to this assembly of creatures no matter what. He's got to make something happen right now. We've got a Dark Ritual. A Brainstorm in response, adding an additional Storm. This Lion's Eye Diamond. I mean, I believe this is just lethal. If he plays Lion's Eye Diamond, he can Infernal Tutor for the Past in Flames. Past in Flames, replay the rituals, Infernal Tutor again, and that's a wrap. I'm not sure what I must not be reading one of these cards in hand correctly. Infernal Tutor being cast, revealing Lion's Eye Diamond. Storm, I believe, at 5. A Wishclaw Talisman. Cracking LEDs in response. But that still looks like a Thoughtseize to me. Let me know in the comments what that card is. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like Thoughtseize would have been super useful earlier. There were plenty of times where he could have Thoughtseized and then won on the same turn. So, yeah, it looks like the Lorwyn art for Thoughtseize. I don't know. Past in Flames, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Infernal Tutor for Tendrils, and that's a wrap. Wishclaw Talisman showing exactly how it earned its spot in the deck.
Thanks, Eric.
Peace. All right, we've got a Deafening Silence against Preordain. Deafening Silence, a very powerful sideboard card here. Wasteland takes out that first land drop, and we see Lucas has a Defense Grid, which may allow him the luxury of bouncing a permanent and continuing his play. All on the same turn. Of course, that would have to be his turn, so he'll have to have enough mana to bounce the permanent and continue on his way. Not the easiest thing, but definitely a possibility. And he's just going to go ahead and jam that Defense Grid, which finds a Force of Negation, a super high value card, removed from hand, which totally fine. Now a Brainstorm. Now Deafening Silence. I think that gets all... Does it hit non-creature spells or just... Let's check. Each player can't cast more than one non-creature spell each turn. I was actually getting that mixed up with Dampening Sphere in my head. So, yes, he'll only be casting one non-creature spell each turn. Lavinia coming down and now actually making a mess of Lion's Eye Diamond and Lotus Petals. Of course, he can play the spells. He does have 0 or more lands. However, if no mana is paid for the spells, they'll be countered, meaning Lotus Petal and Lion's Eye Diamond are not going to be resolving until this Lavinia gets off of the board, barring a Veil of Summer, which is within the realm of possibilities. Veil of Summer is a hell of a magic card. Delver of Secrets coming in, looking to accelerate this clock. Lavinia not only stopping 2 of the most important cards in the deck, particularly Lion's Eye Diamond, which may actually be the strongest card in the deck, essentially Black Lotus on just a huge percentage of the time. And now we've got Xantid Swarm, and he gets Swords to Plowshares. Surprising to see those still in the list. Post board, it can be used to gain yourself some life in response to an Xaxes Tendrils. Sometimes they have 9 spells plus a Tendrils for exactly 20. And if you can sword your Delver or something, you can win the game after they've completely expended all of their resources. But this Deafening Silence looks like a devastating card. Lucas actually going to discard. And he's just ready to move on to game number 3. Lavinia just absolutely devastating. He's going to want some type of bounce or removal to handle Lavinia. Just a lot of good hate bears in that slot right now. We've got Meddling Mage, Lavinia, Thalia to a lesser degree, Aethersworn Canonist. There are a lot of cards, either mono-white or blue-white, in recent years. Just really problems for combo decks. Skipped over the sideboarding there. Lucas now mulliganing down to 6, and he'll have the play. Deafening Silence. Just a powerhouse card for only 1 white mana. Notably can come down before the discard effects from Storm can strip it out of your hand when you are on the play. It's also not a creature, meaning that it's not vulnerable to cards like Fatal Push, Dread of Night. So many ways for black to kill creatures, especially white creatures. So Deafening Silence, just a little bit more difficult to handle. Delver of Secrets, solid opening for Delver here. Given the mulligan, I believe he was mulling down to 5. And I'm surprised Lucas actually didn't fire off any cantrips on his turn there. Wasteland taking out the Underground Sea. And that is going to be used along with the Tropical Island to abrupt decay that Delver. Now we've got a Brainstorm. That gets dazed, so no second land yet for Storm. Veil of Summer is in hand. And this is starting to shape up pretty nicely. Got a fetch. Looks like a Tendril's going to be shuffled away. Generally don't want Tendrils in your hand, unless you're playing against a deck that can potentially play a lot of counters in the same turn. There are times where you're playing against a Delver strategy and you can start throwing out some rituals, resolving some spells, and then get them in a situation where they're fighting over a tutor, like a Wishclaw Talisman, and after they've expended some counter spells, then you can actually just Tendrils from hand. A Rest in Peace, Gideon's Spellbook Edition, and Ponder finds Dark Ritual, Abrupt Decay, and another Ponder. Everything's going to be exiled here, so no sense in building up a graveyard with repeated Ponders. Not going to get Threshold. This is strictly a card quality decision. In general, when you're playing Storm, if you've got the ability to cantrip into cantrips and get to Threshold for a low cost, that's generally worthwhile. Abrupt Decay taking out the Rest in Peace. And it looks like Lucas has got the combo ready to go. Hardcast, Force of Negation, Veil of Summer. Draws a card. Resolves, and Lucas's stuff is going to be uncounterable from here. Lucas playing Delver has no choice but to just sit back and watch. Lion's Eye Diamond going to be sacrificed. He should have 4 black mana, I believe. Past in Flames should be lethal. He might also grab Ad Nauseam from this life total, given that Surgical Extraction is still a card that could interfere with his plans. Past in Flames. Oh, and it's resolving. So that is going to be a wrap. That was a little bit of a gut check. If he grabs Past in Flames and Lucas doesn't have Surgical Extraction, it is definitely over. And that is a wrap from there. Blue-white not going to have any possible answers from that far down the rabbit hole. So a very interesting match. Storm showing some very powerful lines versus this Delver strategy, despite the new improved sideboard hate. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.